Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. Okay, just so you know, code word PHNX. All right, everybody hop in here. William Brad Alice will be joining us shortly, but Arizona loses 49-22. I don't really know what else to say other than the fact that this was a massive disappointment. I think a lot of people thought that, well, Arizona could hang with Oregon. And I was up field level for almost the entire game. And I hate saying this, but this game was over before it started. You could just kind of tell. And again, this is something that Jedd Fisch has to do. And again, everybody hop in here with your comments. I know we're getting started a little bit early here. But sometimes you just know when you're overmatched. I always go back to the Arizona LSU game, where back in about 2003, and Jacob Franklin would know something about being outmatched in football games. That is my esteemed producer. You just kind of know it. And watching Arizona and Oregon at field level, you could kind of tell that Arizona's at a different stage right now than Oregon is. Again, I'm not saying that Dan Lanning is the best coach in the world. That's certainly not what I'm saying, but his dudes just looked a lot bigger. And again, I'm sure we'll talk with Jedd Fisch on Monday about it, but he just, this was a game that kind of felt, over before it started right here. What's up, my man, Matthew? How you doing, homie? We're going to be up here for about an hour or so. So everybody hop in. Cosmic Contrarian. Appreciate you, bro. But, Jacob Franklin, my guy. Yes, it was this was a difficult win or difficult loss for Arizona. Not so much that they lost, because I predicted a loss, but I thought there would be a little bit more of a competitive showdown. That really didn't happen right here. And all right, Cosmic Contrarian, you know what? We take the L's on the chin around here, so we're going to talk with you about this. He says, I tried to tell you, Mike. And again, I think most of my peeps will be on here in about 5 to 10 minutes because the game's still going on. I love my cats, but they are years away. I don't believe on that. You know what? I am going to I'm gonna disagree on that. I'm gonna back the A. Arizona's not years away, but they're a couple years away for sure. And you saw it up. And I was talking with somebody from the from the Arizona Republic, Jacob Franklin's background. The one thing about it, though, that is, I think, a little bit disconcerting is that you watch this game and you could tell up close that one team looks about 45 pounds bigger than the other team. And again, Dan Lanning's a first-year coach. You need to remember, though, that Mario Cristobal is bringing in top 5 class after top 5 class. I totally get that. William Brad Alice is in here to be able to save my life right now. Hello, William.
Michael.
Brad, as Arizona fans, we will never be disappointed because if you're an Arizona fan, you'll probably be disappointed, but you're not disappointed if you can't be disappointed. This was a game that I'll be honest with you, and I was talking with some people about this. I'm going to start shooting the link out in a second when you run with it, but I thought that Arizona would be competitive in this game, and again, watching it up close. This was a game that, and we talked about this before, if Arizona would play Oregon 10 times, they would win none of those games. This was just an outmatch from the beginning.
Yeah, I think the disappointment, I didn't see much of it. I'll admit. I was out trying to coach Little League, but
not trying to coach, excelling.
Well, the problem was we are Flowing Wells Little League, who plays at Curtis Park.
Oh, I know that. I know Curtis Park.
Flowing Wells softball plays at Flowing Wells Park. District 5 sent out a letter saying Flowing Wells Park was closed. So, unfortunately, our opponents thought that meant Flowing Wells' Park was closed. So, we didn't have an opponent tonight. Yeah. So, I only got to go 1-0 today. Go Tidal Waves Volleyball. And unfortunately, in college football, I went 0-1 because Arizona not playing well. So my point being, I didn't see much of the game because we were still out at the park waiting for our opponent to show up. But I think the disappointment to me is not that they lost, but that I mean, it's 49-22 as we speak, and it's not that close.
No, dude, Brad, honestly, that's the thing that was a little disconcerting, dude. So like I spent the first quarter on the sideline and because I just wanted to see what it looks like. Because again, Oregon recruits, as you know better than anybody, Oregon recruits at a top 10 to 15 level. And I just wanted to see what it looked like up front, what it looked like up close. And this is where you know that still Jedd Fisch, again, Cosmic Contrarian, I do believe, might be an ASU fan. Jedd Fisch is going to have no problem holding this team together because they buy into that vision. But Brad, I'll tell you one thing though, man. Like just looking at the D line, looking at the O line, the only one that looked like he belonged out there, or there was three people on the both lines that look. Jonas Savanea looks like he belongs out there because he does. And Jordan Morgan, your guy up in Marana, looks like he belongs up there. And on the defensive side, it was Hunter Eccles and nobody else. Nobody else looked like they were of that physical stature. And I think that's what's a little bit disconcerting, but it's something that Jedd Fisch is going to have to work with.
Yeah, I mean, we knew there was a talent deficiency. And I think as we keep doing measuring stick games.
Right.
And obviously the first one was San Diego State, and they which we didn't know was as bad as that. And then to me, the next one was that Mississippi State game, and they didn't measure up, but they were okay. They were 3 plays away from making that really interesting, but they weren't as good. Okay, we get that. The next one was Cal, and I think if they play Cal 10 times, they win 5.
I agree.
4.
I agree with that. Maybe 4 or 5, something like that, though.
Okay, but they're not good enough to beat Cal 8 out of 10 times.
Right.
So that's another. Right. So they're not there yet. They blew out Colorado. That was important.
Right.
So now the next one in this long line of measuring stick was Oregon, who we know is one of the better teams in the Pac-12, and they didn't belong on the field with them, and that's the problem. Right. Again, if they play this one 10 times, they're losing 9.5 or whatever it is.
Right. Hey, let me ask you this, Brad. You know what bothered me the most, though, about this game? And I want to get into your historical references because you have a lot better when it gets to before about the Fiesta Bowl, you have a much better grasp of this than I do. But and so remind me to come back to that. But I thought Arizona would probably lose this game. And all right, I don't know where you're going with this, but I thought Arizona would lose this game. But at the same time, I didn't expect the beatdown of it because I had already looked at where Oregon had played games. Oregon barely beat Washington State. And keep in mind, too, that, that was the game where 2 pick sixes changed the game. You lost 49-0 against Georgia. Again, I get that it's Georgia. Totally get that. But I didn't expect Arizona to be outmanned. The only games that I thought this year that Arizona would be outmanned possibly was Utah and maybe USC. This one took me for a little bit of surprise for sure.
And again, I can't speak enough on it because I didn't see enough of it. But is it one of those, again, where they play 10 times and 3 are close, 3 are 15 to 20-point losses, and 4 are like this?
Right.
And I don't know. But, and what little I saw, Arizona's kind of getting beat up.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, from a talent standpoint, I think Oregon's among the top 3 in the conference. I don't think they're the top 3 teams in the conference, although I may have to change that now based upon what has happened to Washington.
Which is crazy, but yeah.
Washington State coming back down to earth, but UCLA looks pretty good too. And again, haven't seen all the scores. So if UCLA ended up blowing a game or Washington State ended up coming back, I don't know these things. But to me, the question was always how good of a team is Oregon, not how good are their players.
Right.
And if Lanning, again, I have no idea how good a coach he is, or is he a coaching upgrade from Cristobal? Or is he a coaching downgrade? If he's a downgrade, they're in trouble. If he's an upgrade, they're in great shape. They did not look good in that Georgia game, but Georgia's really good.
Right.
So I'm not upset that they got better players on the lines because we knew that. Arizona doesn't have good line play yet. Better, yes. So now, again, I'm hoping that this can be one of those games you throw out that the steamroller started going. Arizona just couldn't ever recover. Oregon was, that happens in games where teams can run on you. You lose your soul a little bit. Right. That said, let's see what happens with Washington, which is going to be. Right. I don't expect them to win, even with Washington not playing well. My dog just ran across my keyboard. Right. So we'll see. I didn't think they'd win tonight. I think if they're
what kind of dog is that, Brad? Very cute dog, by the way. Is this your rescue?
They're all rescues. This is Millie.
That's
Millie.
All, dude. I only go rescues as well. Ted Wardo's a rescue.
Yes, Millie is what my vet calls a Tucson Chihuahua. That means there's Chihuahua and a whole lot more. She's a little, she's our feisty one, but she's our cuddler too. So the three other ones are running around. You might hear the puppy start fighting, but we've had her since about November. She adopted us. Right. Literally was running around our neighborhood. Decided I like Riley better than my real family, and kept showing up on our doorstep every morning at 6. And we didn't have the offensive line play to protect us, and she came home.
Right. So, let me ask you this, Brad, because you could definitely speak to this. Ricky Garrett, one of our all-time OGs right here. Unfortunately for Jedd, this does hurt his chances of getting full crowds until we get better. People aren't packing the house for blowouts. I've lived it. You've lived it. And I think the one thing with Arizona football fans that is very difficult to get them back is that Arizona football fan, maybe more so than any other fan base, are generally used to being let down. And I can just use in my lifetime, you got the Fiesta Bowl team. Almost everybody comes back. And again, a couple starters, but you know what I'm talking about. Almost everybody comes back. You go 8-4 off a top 10 finish. 98, Arizona finishes 4th in the nation. You respond with almost everybody coming back outside of a few people. You've got, obviously you lose C-Mac, you lose Kelvin, you lose a couple guys like that. But Arizona then goes 5-6. Every single time, I think, and this is what's difficult for Arizona fans, is every time something big looks to happen, it's kind of a big letdown. Whereas with Arizona basketball, yes, if you're expecting something big, you might be let down, but it's probably going to be a letdown in the Elite Eight, not in a regular season.
And that's the great point. So when Arizona football lets you down, it's losing 7-6 to ASU.
Right.
It's blowing a big lead against ASU with the bowl on the line. It's going to Oregon and getting 3 plays off in a minute 40 with a game-tying field goal. It's hitting guy in the head on an extra point. It's there's been a lot of times Arizona has controlled their own destiny heading into a game, and they have never been able to come out of there with a win. Cal up 20-0. It was a 14-7 loss to USC a few years, in the Tomey era.
Right.
If they win that one, that Oregon game, the double overtime, if they win that, they control their own destiny. Yes, when Arizona disappoints you, they disappoint you in the Elite Eight, or they're upset in the Sweet. So yes, there were those first round losses. I get it. But it's Triangle and 2. It's the Kansas comeback. It's, we can name them. The Nick Johnson push off.
For sure.
Go down the list. So yeah, that's the difference. When Arizona softball lets you down, they let you down at the College World Series.
Right. They let you down at a far advanced level.
Yes, because and that's the difference between being an elite program and being a hopefully middling football program. Now, that being said, if you're the only thing you should be let down about this game is the score.
Right.
Arizona wasn't supposed to win this game. If Arizona wins four or more football games, they're ahead of schedule. But yes, you want to start to buy in. You want things. And again, I was surprised this one was sold out because I didn't think it would be a good game.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
And again, you've lived this all as much as anybody out there. At what point does Arizona need to prove it to you? And I'm just talking from the average fan. Again, you're a father, multiple kids. You've lived it. At what point for the average fan will there come a point where you say, you know what, I got to see it. I'll show, but you got to see it.
Are they not there yet?
They're definitely not there yet.
Have they not been there since the end of the Stoops era? Remember, people forget, for the first 5 years of the Stoops era, they averaged 48,000 fans.
Right.
And that was with a mediocre student section.
Right.
It was at the Rich Rod time. And I will say this, the worst thing that happened to attendance at Arizona Stadium is improved TV.
Right.
It used to be you'd have to watch it tape delayed, or you couldn't watch it. There were times for road games that I had to do a post-game show based upon a radio broadcast.
Oh, I'm well aware of these ones,
or
for sure.
Had to find a bar that could pirate, and I'm not going to call those bars out, but there may be one not too far from skate country in our neck of the woods, and Sean Seeley knows what I'm talking about. That they knew how to pirate the games. They had the transponder code. But now, if you look at it, we also live in an era where now I think you get to a point, and it's harder to be that dedicated. It'd be great to say, yes, I'm going to the game regardless, win or lose, back the A. And I was that guy in my 20s before I got the
I know.
Gig. But you get to a point, and not everyone's like this. There's about 30,000 fans who will come no matter what. But, it's at the point where it's like, okay, well, I have so much on my plate. Do I really want to go watch a losing football team?
Right.
And there are times I have gone, since I've gotten out of the full-time media, that I've only gone because I got invited to the tailgate first. I'm like, okay, I'll go watch, but, or I got free tickets. I have the discretionary income to buy okay tickets at Arizona Stadium. Mm-hmm. And between coaching Little League Baseball and coaching my daughter's volleyball team and, spending time with the family and having 55 games on my 55-inch TV.
I.e. being a family man that's got family and a responsibility.
It's really hard for me to, shell out a couple $100 to go watch a bad product because I can't get my $5 tickets anymore.
Right.
So I don't blame the fans. There was in my 20s a time I'm like, why aren't you out there?
Right.
And tickets were cheaper and you couldn't watch games. I get it. And to be honest, it's better, but I mean, my game day experience for Mississippi State was not good.
Right. And please explain that, because you were texting me throughout. Please explain that.
Okay. So Mississippi State game, good crowd, not so. I get there 45 minutes before game time. My dad was given tickets by a friend of his
You got the kids with you, correct?
No, it's just me and my father. My dad's 80. My dad's spry for an 81-year-old, but he's still an 81-year-old.
Right.
We have a parking permit, season ticket holder, Wildcat Club guy. So it's a good parking permit, good tickets. They oversold the parking lot 45 minutes before kickoff, which we had to wait in line for. They said, hey, maybe you can go to the 6th Street garage. Maybe. We don't risk it. We have to park at the hospital because that was the best way. So me and my 81-year-old father, again, fit, but we walk across campus. We get there and there's a line to get in. And they're directing people to a line, but then they're directing people from 2 lines to the other line. We missed the first touchdown.
Right.
We get to our seats. We are under the cover, so we're right there where I guess it's the Wildcat Club, I think.
Right.
Not in the end zone. So I don't know if it was that. The bass is so rattling that I can't hear the official. I can't hear, unless he says third down. I couldn't. Is it Jeff Dean who does it? Mm-hmm. Or whoever does? Yeah. Who's good? He's a good PA announcer, but I couldn't hear him.
Right.
I can't hear the games. And my dad had to turn down his hearing aids because the bass was hurting.
Right.
Me, who's an earbud guy, heavy metal guy, almost left because I was getting a headache. They fixed it, but I couldn't hear the rest. I don't know what the penalties are. So here I am with what I assume are about $80, $90, $100 tickets, a parking permit I can't use, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the sideline warning was, so why do I want to do that again?
Right.
For a mediocre product. And by the way, I know Borgay, good kid, good family.
We're going to get to that in a second for sure.
Yeah, I've known him since he was 5. Good for him. Wrong school, but, that was his opportunity. So, yeah, we live in a day and age where, again, the football experience on my television is really good. So you got to give me something. And some of that's a winning football product. I was there for a lot of that Khalil Tate October. That was a lot of fun. Got to take my son to some football games. That was a lot of fun from that experience. But it's an expensive thing to do for a bad product. And I'm glad there are people like Matthew. Who, by the way, I saw at the Red Blue, didn't get to say hi, but I did see him.
Fantastic dude. I'm going to
So
actually.
I get that. There are people like that, and I wish I could be like that. And maybe again, when my kids move out and everything, I can be that guy again, win or lose, go. But right now, I get it. I get why it's 30,000 people.
Right. I am going to first of all, Shane Diefenbach. You can talk as much crap as you want because you're my guy, and ASU did win. A couple things, though. Brad, have I told you about the DraftKings Sportsbook app? Code word PHNX.
Thankfully you have.
All right, here's the deal. If you put down $5, you get $200 in free bets if that team wins. Again, you might think to yourself, Mike, that can't possibly be true. It is. If that's not enough, you can boost your earning or your winnings with DraftKings Sportsbook same game stepped up parlays right now. For every leg, you can boost your winnings up to 100% with payouts bigger than ever. Why bet on football anywhere else? That simple, that easy. To make things even easier, you can throw down on a stepped up same game parlay once per game. If you want to bet on the Chiefs, like William Brad Alice probably would. That's what you're going to do, though. And it's all season long. Again, it's simple. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Again, code word PHNX. And minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And here's what's going to be. Four Peaks Brewery, the official brew of PHNX4 right here. The great Kevin Woodman is making his triumphant return to Tucson. And he's going to be here October 15th at Tap and Bottle, which we'll get to in a minute. But Four Peaks Brewery, Four Peaks is going to be right there. Come here, join us, check it out. Four Peaks Brewery. You can even come check out Sun Devils pregame shows if you want to root against them at the official Four Peaks thing in Tempe. Okay. Brad, I got a bunch of questions here. I don't believe, let me go back up here real quick. Okay. Cosmic Contrarian. This is where I lose the average Arizona fan, where he says, and then I was drinking water the entire game, so I have to use the restroom. But he says, Brad, the Cats will not win another game this year, possibly in the ASU. That's okay. That's just reality. I don't buy that theory, and I've never bought that theory because Arizona generally upsets a team that they probably shouldn't upset, Brad. And so I look at this schedule. Washington State, winnable game. They're Washington, winnable game. Heck, ASU just beat them. So I've never subscribed to that theory that a lot of Arizona fans go with, where it's just, oh, well, we can't win this game. I don't buy that.
And again, this is fandom.
Brad, you're going to have to hold this for like 1 minute real quick.
There's a recency bias. When Arizona beat San Diego State, everyone was saying they're going to win 7 or 8 games. When they lost to Mississippi State, they're going to win 3 games. When they lose to Cal, they're not going to win again. Then they blow out Colorado, and it's, we're going to sell out for Oregon because we're going to win 9 games. Now they lose badly to Oregon. It's like, we're not going to win another game. They're not going to win a lot of games, and I'd be shocked if they don't win any games. The fact is, Arizona's probably not quite as bad as they showed tonight, nor are they probably as good as they showed last week. That's just what an up-and-coming rebuilding football team is. So if I would guess that they will probably be the underdog in all but maybe the last game, I think they will win more than 1. I don't think they'll win more than 3.
Right.
But we all, and that's what fans do. It's a knee-jerk. It's an overreaction to every game. Remember, the Chiefs, again, I'm going to use the Chiefs. Chiefs were dead and buried after they lost to the Colts.
Right.
Then they beat the Buccaneers, and now they're the Super Bowl favorite. Well, they're probably somewhere in between. Remember, Oregon, this was the worst hire ever. Dan Lanning's a bum because Oregon got blown out by Georgia.
Right.
Well, now all of a sudden, you got coach. The Louisville coach apparently had to win today to save his job. Again, one game's the difference.
Right.
So was tonight bad? Yes. Is Arizona a good football team? No, they're not. We knew that. They're an improved football team from where they were last year, which was a dumpster fire because they inherited a dumpster on a trash barge fire.
Right.
This, again, I think the thing we say, and it should be the Brad and Mike drinking game, and maybe you and Shu, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Rome was not built in a day.
And
that is the Arizona football. That is the Arizona football motto. We were not built in a day. The Desert Swarm was not built in a day. I'm going to get to the Desert Swarm genesis, though, with you a little bit later on, but continue to go, William.
So I think the fact, yes. Do I expect Arizona to go to a bowl game? No, I don't, because Cal was that game. Do I think they can still win 1-2 more? Yeah, I do. Do you
agree with me, or do you agree with Cosmic Contrarian that I believe Arizona is going to probably win a game before ASU that they'll be an underdog in? What would William Brad Ellis say if I were to ask you that? You know what? You got 5 games left. What would you say?
I would say that's more likely than not.
I like it.
Now, again, that depends on a lot of things. Could this team totally freak out tonight and he lose the team a little bit? Yeah, that could happen.
All right.
Are both of them that? Sorry, I brought my son the wrong ramen. I got him hot and spicy and not.
Brad, I got 2 things right here,
yeah.
But we're going to get to, because one thing that I've been very remiss in during all of our post-game shows, and Jacob has rightfully got on me about this, is getting to the graphics. So we're going to get to the graphics, because you got to remember, we got guys like Jacob Franklin who are much smarter than me that know what they're doing. With me, if I can put 3 and 3 together, it's been a successful day. With Jacob Franklin, if he could put 937 together with 2,186, he's going to do it right like that. We're going to get to that in a second. But 2 things right here. Mountain Mike's Pizza. All right. Oh, yes. If you don't like pizza, generally you suck. And Mountain Mike's Pizza is going to be there off of Oracle. If you want to come to, let's say, I don't know, Tap and Bottle for the away game next week, I would assume William Brad Ellis might be there with Uncle Kev coming into town. Is that true?
I will be there until I have to leave to go coach.
Yes. But let's just say you want some pizza. Mountain Mike's would be the spot to go to, but Tap and Bottle is the ultimate destination. It's going to be very fun. Kevin Woodman's going to be there. John Schuster's going to be there. Brad Ellis will be there. All of the OGs. Heck, Anthony Gimino might actually even be there. He turned down a trip to Spokane, Washington, so he could come hang out. So that's how cool it is. But check it out. Mountain Mike's Pizza. Get that on the way to Tap and Bottle.
So all where's Mountain Mike's Pizza? I need to know this.
It's on Oracle and off of Oracle and Wetmore. That's what I got right now. Yeah.
What? That's right. That's my neighborhood.
That dude, make it happen, man. Oh, by the way, Matthew Bothell are going to show up. I would say this, though. It's a 2:30 kick. And again, this isn't because of me. This is because of Uncle Kev, who's a rock star in Tucson. I would highly recommend getting there about 1:45 or so, because I do believe that this will be a
bite your tongue, David.
Kevin Woodman, our good friend.
Right, I mean, they're both our drunk Uncle Kev.
Yes, I was going to say Kevin will probably, because when I did talk with Kevin, he said that I would be there, but he said he would be there. He would start drinking about 9:00 at Trident. So he's like, so he's going to be there. All these people will be there. I'll be there in spirit, back the A. All right. So let's get to, I'll tell you what, let's get to the, what did we learn? Do we have that possibly? All right. Oh, I like that. See, I would have never been able to do anything like this. This is how cool Jacob is. I'm going to tell you what I learned, and I'm going to tell, and then William, you can go from there. What did we learn? We learned that Arizona is still not ready to compete with the upper echelon teams. It wasn't even so much like the Georgias, the Alabamas, as that second level team, that top 15 to 20 team. Arizona just not there yet. Just not there.
No. And I think there was hope. We all believe that maybe Arizona was in the middle of the Pac-12. They're not. They're in the bottom third.
For sure.
And that's fine. The question is, can they be closer to 8th than 12th? And I think they are. I mean, obviously they are because of how bad Colorado is. But, they got to prove they're better than Arizona State. They got to prove they're better than even Washington State. So yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, they're again, it's just a long process. No matter how old school you are, you can't bring in one player and turn things around like you do in college basketball.
All right. Now, here's how good I am. We're going to actually kill two birds with one stone, but in a good way. Let's go by the numbers right there. Thanks. I don't even know what to start with this one, but thank you, Jake.
The rushing yards is the one.
Oh, God.
306. You got to have that. You got to have that. I mean, that's just what it comes down to.
Right.
Because everything, I mean, if you give up 274 passing and 100, then that's Arizona numbers. If you give up, 4 of 8 fourth down, not horrible. The problem is, Arizona's third down conversions was actually not bad at all. But
right.
You just got ran all over. If I'm looking at the stats, that's 7.5 yards a carry. Arizona ran for 4.6.
Right.
They passed for 9.4. I mean, the passing game wasn't good either. The defense was bad tonight. And we knew. I think we had hopes that the defense was better after the San Diego State game. The defense is not very good. We know that. I mean, teams can run on Arizona. The curse came pre-Tomey.
All right, but I do need to ask you this question though. Because you've watched teams, and this is why I'm blessed to have some people like you on here that have seen things that I haven't. You've watched teams where the coaching staff said, you know what? Screw it. We're going all freshmen here. And it turns out to be the Desert Swarm. How far away is this team from being competent defensively, Brad? Considering the transfer portal, considering high school, everything, how far away is this team from just being competent? Not good, competent.
It depends what you can do in the transfer portal, to be honest.
Right.
If you can land 2 stud D linemen and probably a linebacker and stud, a Hunter Eckerls type impact, honorable mention all Pac-12 type player. And you put them in with the younger guys who there still are a few who look nice, Savea, or Savea, excuse me. Looks like he still has potential. Deuce Davis, a couple of those guys, but you really need to bolster that defensive front. I like some of the young linebackers. I'm just not sure some of them are frankly going to get big enough to run.
What do you mean by that?
You got a lot of guys who look like big safeties right now.
Right.
So can you go from 210 to 230? Can you go from 220 to 240?
Right.
Some of them, and again, I've seen this thing. And it's not necessarily weight too. It could be, can you transform your 215 into a bulkier 215? I've seen this thing. Well, why is this guy playing and this guy? They say this guy's too small because not everyone carries their weight the same way.
Correct. Mike Luke does not carry the same weight that Brad Allis does.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'll give you a better example. I weigh about the same Parker Zellers did. Who do you think carries their weight better? Parker Zellers did. But one kid at 180 is a beast, and another kid at 180 is light. And that's just how they're built.
Right.
Or you have to transform. They're like, well, he's got the same. Well, one kid may come in at 180 but need to transform some baby fat into muscle, and another kid may come in at 180 but not be a bulky 180. So it all depends. And kids physically change from 18 to 20. So my point being is, I don't know if Colby Cage will be big enough. He's bigger this year, but will he be big enough to stop the run? And maybe you have to go get some run-stopping linebackers to complement these guys, or an Ammon Allen, or a Jacob Manu. These are all smaller linebackers. Can they get big enough, or does Arizona have to recruit over them? In which case, okay, you got to do it. Roberts is fine, but he's out of here.
I guess my question:
Malik Reed may never be ready.
Let me stop you there, though. At what point, though, because, there were some times that Dick Tomey had undersized guys. I mean, you could look at it. Brandon Sanders was a small safety. Guys like Kelly Malvo, small cornerbacks. Marcus Bell, not the biggest dude in the world, but he always sprinkled it in though because he would have big dudes out there at the same time. He would have a he would have a Joe Salavea. He would have a Ty Parton. He would have guys like that. How does Arizona have anybody that is a long-term fixture on that defensive line where you're like, okay, I could see him being that part in a year or two?
I don't mean to be mean, Mike, but quit bringing up. It's different. Football's different.
No, but it isn't because at the same time, though, he got. Yes, you're right. You're right. But at the same time, though, these were small guys that would always be small guys. Brandon Sanders would always have been a small dude.
Yeah. But the difference was you were facing 270-pound offensive linemen.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My bad. I agree.
You weren't running against spread offenses. You could scheme your way. And defenses could dominate. Defenses will never dominate again. The game has changed. So that being said, can you scheme for size? You can. It's harder to do now. But sometimes it doesn't matter the size of the guy. They play bigger than they are.
Right.
It didn't matter how tall or big Brandon Sanders was because he hit you. He knocked you out.
Right.
Kelly Malvo is a good example, but occasionally guys, we didn't call it that then, mossed Kelly Malvo. There were a lot of times Malvo had his, he had his chest here or his face in your chest, but you're still catching it. Sometimes it didn't matter how big your linebackers are because Rob Waldrop was in your face already when you're handing off the ball. So you can scheme. So again, but now that you have 330-pound linemen who run like the 270s used to or run faster, yeah, you need a little more size up front.
I guess the reason I'm going to defend myself just really quickly here, because you got to talk with Dick Tomey many, many times. I got to talk with Dick Tomey twice in my life. So again, I'm not, unlike you, I've only talked with him twice. But
I don't think I've talked to him more than that, though, to be honest, Mike. That was,
you know what, Brad?
He was on his way out when I was on my way in.
Right. But he made the point. He said, I would always look at frames and I would say, okay, can I get 40 pounds on you? Can you get bigger? And I feel that at Arizona, that's the way that it has to be. And again, I don't mean to keep going back on the swarm. Totally understand that.
That's the point now. And again, so now you've made your point. Frame, adding 40.
Right.
So that's why I don't know. I can't answer your question because I don't know how many of these guys who are freshmen and sophomores now are going to be able to add the 40 because they're maybe halfway there. I can't proclaim a lot of these freshmen and sophomore defensive linemen bust yet because I don't know how big they're going to get. And a lot of these guys are being forced, much like Desert Swarm, because people forget Desert Swarm's guys, they weren't on the field because Tomey gave up on the seniors. They got on the field in many ways because all the seniors got hurt.
Right.
And that's honestly the biggest shame about Desert Swarm is half those guys should have been here another year.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing because they pulled everybody out. And I know that was a controversial thing.
Yeah, but they couldn't feel. I mean, they barely could feel the team as it was. There was that 54-0 game at Washington, which was the low point to climb out of. So I can't tell you that, is it Kanganaika? I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Who's been thrust in there. He probably didn't look real good tonight. But guess what? He might in 2 years when he's got 20 pounds of muscle and 20 months of practice. And so it's a hard question to answer. But in the immediate future, yeah, they've got to add. As good as the transfer portal was for the offense this year, it has to be better for the defense. Because right now, they're not batting as well on the defensive transfer portal.
No, they're not. They're not.
For every Jerry Roberts, there's 4 guys who haven't panned out.
Right. For sure.
The safety from UCLA hasn't seen the field. Rutherford hasn't been as good as advertised.
Right.
Savea's been hurt and didn't look great there. Eccles is really good. But, yeah, they need to hit on more of those guys. Malik Reed hasn't made a big impact. So let's see what they do. Yeah, but it's year 2 of what is going to be a pretty good rebuilding. And can they get 4 or 5 wins this year? It's going to be an uphill climb to get the 6, and then the next year, yeah, you sprinkle more guys in. You suddenly figure out that, Deuce Davis adds 10 more pounds, and suddenly he already looks good, but then he looks great.
Right.
And maybe Jacob Manu gets stronger and he suddenly looks better than he does now. And they might not, in which case you recruit over him. And that's what you do in a football program. If you can't figure it out, you get a new guy who can.
All right, everybody. Like I said, disappointing game for sure. But, again, Arizona, Brad, I think you would admit is much better than they were last year, but there are still a lot of issues that they do need to figure out on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think that I'm really breaking anything there.
And they weren't great on offense either tonight. They weren't.
They weren't.
Okay.
You know what? And the wide receiver unit, which we've talked about ad nauseum, and we're going to talk about it because you're coming on Monday with me. The wide receiver unit is going to be the unit that needs to be able to carry this team through games. And you know what? In a couple games this year, they just haven't been there. I mean, they just, Mississippi State, they didn't dominate. This unit has to be able to dominate every single game or week in and week out, and they didn't do it today.
No, and again, there's a lot of parts to that. Jayden Lara's got to get him the ball. They've got to be able to protect with the run a little bit better. But at the end of the day, Oregon was just has too many good players. I mean, it's you want to come up with all this fancy. At the end of the day, Joes are more important than X's and O's sometimes.
Right.
And if you do look at it, Oregon is a very athletic defense, as is Mississippi State. And that gave Arizona some troubles. Colorado's bad. So Arizona was all over it. Right. San Diego State's not as athletic and big and athletic. And Arizona was able to have some success. They had some success against Cal until they started turning the ball over. But that's college football. Again, Oregon is another tier, and Georgia's another tier from that. But I think Oregon and Mississippi State are comparable when it comes to raw athleticism. I think Oregon has recruited better players overall, but Leach is also maybe a better coach, at least at this stage in his career. So, we've seen in those two games, Arizona's just low outgunned. In the other games, Arizona's been in it or have won it.
Right. On that note, we will be back with you, Brad. It's always privileged to have you on there. Everybody out there, we're going to talk way more about this. Again, frustrating game. We get that. But we got basketball coming up. Obviously, we got football coming up as well. Brad will be back here Monday at 12:30. But Jacob Franklin behind there making us look cool. We'll talk with you. We'll talk with you on Monday. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.